Good morning, everyone. The opening words of the Passover Seder is, this is the bread of affliction that our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. Whoever is hungry, let them come and eat. Now, this must be the strangest invitation. Inviting people to eat your bread of affliction, why would anyone want to join in the bread of affliction? Secondly, after we conclude telling the story, we finish by saying, what is this matzah that we are eating? It's the bread of freedom, of redemption, that our ancestors didn't have enough time to bake bread as they left Egypt in great haste, and so they ate the matzah. So the question is, in the beginning of the Seder, we called it the bread of affliction. At the end of the telling of the story, suddenly the same matzah becomes the bread of redemption and freedom. Which one is it? Is it the bread of affliction or the bread of redemption? The Italian Holocaust survivor Primo Levi, who wrote his famous book, If This Is a Man, tells the story of his imprisonment in Auschwitz. And he says the worst days of his entire imprisonment was the 10 days from when the Nazis left Auschwitz with the death march of thousands and thousands of Jews before the Russians came to liberate the camp. And he says only those who were the weakest, who were infirm, who were in the hospital, who could not leave, were left behind by the Nazis. And there was 10 days from when the Germans left until the Russians arrived and liberated the camp. And he says that those were the worst 10 days, because during those 10 days there was no food whatsoever. It was freezing cold in the winter. He said there was no power, and they were the darkest days of being in Auschwitz. However, he said, he went out to try to find a little bit of food somewhere, and he was looking through the frozen earth. Maybe he could find the root of a vegetable or something to eat. When suddenly another Jewish inmate, saw him and came over to him and said, "Are you hungry?" He said, "Yes, I'm starving." He says, "Come, I'll share my food with you." And he gave him a little piece of his bread. He said at that moment he knew that he was free. At that moment he was no longer a prisoner in Auschwitz, but at that moment he was a free man. The moment someone was able to share with him the little bit that they had, despite the harsh circumstances and the uncertainty of the future, that was the first time he tasted liberation, even before the Russians actually arrived. And this is perhaps the meaning of the opening of the Haggadah. This is the bread of affliction that our ancestors ate. All who are hungry, let them come and eat. When we are willing to share even the little bit that we have in our afflictions, that is the definition of freedom. Because freedom is not just your own emancipation, but by definition, you can only be free if you help free others. When you share what you have and care for others, no matter how little it is, that is when you become free as a person. And that is why we begin by saying, this is the bread of affliction. Come and eat, come and join in my bread of affliction. And then after we do that, by the end of the Seder, we say this is the bread of freedom and liberation. Many are wondering, how can we sit down to the Seder tomorrow night and celebrate freedom when there are still 133 hostages in captivity? How can we celebrate freedom when so many Passover Seders in Israel will be missing mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and sons and daughters who were killed on October 7th or afterwards? And the answer is yes, we're eating the bread of affliction, but we're also sharing our bread with one another. The love, the unity, the concern, the generosity that has existed since October 7th shows that we are a free people, because even in our affliction, we love and care and share whatever we have to strengthen and care for one another. And that's the way we transform our bread of affliction into bread of freedom. Have a wonderful day.